Hi, I'm Jules, and thanks for joining me on Jules FM. There's a phrase I've been sitting with a lot lately that I wanted to discuss. Rejection is protection. It's not my phrase. I have heard it around, and it is definitely not original, but it is something that really resonates. And I'll be honest, when you're in the middle of something that is falling apart, that phrase can feel incredibly annoying. Because when a door closes, it doesn't feel like it's protection. It feels like a loss. It feels like failure. And it feels like, what did I do wrong? But with time, and usually only in hindsight, or often in hindsight, so many of us look back and realize that the thing that didn't work out was actually making space for something that's far more aligned with who we are or where we're going or what we want to be. I think one of the hardest parts about rejection or change is that it rarely makes sense in the moment. Sometimes it does, but often no. We want answers straight away. We want that reassurance. We want to know why. But life doesn't tend to work like that. Often, the clarity only comes when we look backwards and we can connect the dots and think or realize that had that worked out, I wouldn't be here where I am now. So thank goodness it didn't. Emma Murray shared when we spoke on her interview, she tells her kids that there is no job that is ever a waste of time. And this is kind of the same principle. Every role we have in life teaches us something, even if we don't realize it at the time. Skills, resilience, communication, boundaries, self-awareness, sometimes even clarity around what we don't want. And I love that because it removes the pressure of having to get it right straight away. But knowing that nothing is ever wasted and nothing is random. So even if it's not right, there is something in every situation for us to learn. For me, teaching has always been something I genuinely love. I love mentoring, I love working with people, and especially young people, and I really love helping them grow and others grow as well. But alongside that, I've always had this creative drive, like acting, voiceovers, storytelling. As I've explained in past podcasts, even since I was little, this is what is true to me. And up until my last school, which is where I'm at now, I had never worked more than a year full-time anywhere. I had worked at a previous school before this one for many years, but it was on and off, little stints here and there, and I always pursued my creative work alongside it. But then I started this new school because I thought, and I started here when my kids were at school age. So I was very fortunate that I could stay home most of the time while they were young. But then as soon as my youngest, Finn, reached kinder years or early childhood years, that was it. I really wanted to get back to work. And I thought, this is it. This is what I want. I want the security. I want the regular income. And especially with kids, I thought it's going to be really useful. And yep, this is it. And it was, at first, it was great. I loved it. I really do love working with kids. But slowly, I could feel myself getting further and further away from what I loved. And which is really ironic, I could also find myself physically getting smaller and smaller. And I know that sounds so weird, but it was like I was becoming less and less of myself. And then what happened, as it would, over time, I moved into a leadership position. And that feeling intensified. I was progressing in my career and on paper, which, looked great. But internally, I felt completely disconnected from myself. And this all happened during COVID, and I know there were many factors at play. But after 3 years in that role, I was so unhappy. I was stressed. I was highly anxious, and I was not myself at all. It was not good for anyone, my family included. And so eventually I gave it away. And at the time, it was terrible. I felt like a failure. My ego really struggled. I told myself, what's wrong with you? Why couldn't you cope? You can't cut it. You're not good enough. And I questioned my strength and who I was. But what I did do, though, was start managing my anxiety at that time. I started paying attention, which is also when I recognized that there was another need inside me that I hadn't been listening to. Then, after my mum passed away last year, something really shifted in me. I reassessed it all. And I realized something really, really important. It was an absolute blessing that that leadership role didn't work out. Because if it had, I probably would still be there, still disconnected from the work that absolutely lights me up. What didn't work out was actually redirecting me. Gently, but firmly. Actually, it wasn't so gentle. It was pretty forthright. My body literally rejected the position I was going into. Now, a year into part-time work, which is what I'm doing now, part-time teaching, but I'm also doing my podcast and voiceovers, I can honestly say that I am the healthiest and happiest I've been in years. That door didn't close to punish me, even though it felt absolutely like it did at the time. It actually closed to protect me. And I'm sure that it's no coincidence that when you're brave enough to listen, to take the first steps towards what your heart and your soul are yearning for, doors open. Things just seem to magically fall into place. It's like the universe goes, yes, finally, you're listening. This is what you're meant to be doing. And I think about that also when my eldest son was going through primary school, and he was bullied quite badly. And it got to grade 5 and he was crying every day. He didn't want to go to school. And it was like, it was heartbreaking to watch. And so James and I made the tough decision, but also the right one. And there really was an alternative. And we pulled him out of school. And then we were left with, okay, well, where are we going to send him? And so we researched some schools around us and we found this amazing, much smaller school in our area that we sent Arch to, and it turned out to be the best thing we could have ever done, because they had this incredible enrichment program which suited Arch as a learner. And so he flourished there. And I look back and I think, thank goodness. I know it's terrible, and bullying is never a great thing. And so not thank goodness he was bullying, but I'm thankful that our hand was forced into making a decision that worked out for his highest good. So, I just think there is a lot to be said that sometimes at the time, when as hard as it is, it can make sense later on. And I see the same situation playing out right now with a close friend of mine. She's really struggling at work and has been for years. And yet just as long, she's talked about her love for a completely different career path. Over time, she's had multiple injuries that's forced her to step away from the work she's currently in. And now she's under pressure to possibly leave altogether. She's scared and she's really worried about that decision being made for her. And I understand that so clearly. But from the outside, I can't help but see it differently. I see a life trying to redirect her. And I see rejection as protection. I see an invitation for her to step into the life she's meant to be leading, not a punishment. And likewise again, when my husband James started his triathlon training company years ago, even from the day he started, things just seemed to work. Opportunities arose that he hadn't imagined, but that helped him succeed in this path. He attracted clients really quickly and really easily. And before he knew it, or we knew it, he was 10 years down and running a highly successful side business because these were his strengths. It worked with people, his communication, healthy living, triathlon training. And Vicky Petratus said something similar about saying yes before you're ready. If you're on the right path, saying yes and trusting yourself can bring about incredible opportunities. Sometimes the universe whispers and sometimes I feel like it nudges. And sometimes, like for me and for others, it absolutely shoves us. But it's not because we're failing. It's just because we're not listening. And I truly, truly believe this. If something doesn't work out, if it doesn't automatically mean it wasn't meant for you. It might just mean it wasn't meant to stay, or it's not meant right now, or it's not quite the right path. But we really need to listen and trust to find out what the message is. If you're listening and you feel like you've invested too much time to change, you're too old to start again, you should be grateful for what you had. I want you to know that I've been there. I know the feeling. And I want you to hear this. It is never, never, ever too late to realign. Nothing you've done is wasted. In fact, maybe you're meant to be, or I truly believe you're meant to be where you are right now, because that's just what your path journey is about. But it just means up until now, you haven't had the skills or the courage or whatever it is to move. But trust that it's never too late to take that step. Every version of you has led you here. Listening to this right now, hopefully getting a little nudge to maybe take a different step if that's where you're meant to be going. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is close the door that you are clinging to. If something hasn't worked out for you recently, a job, a relationship, a plan that you were attached to maybe today isn't about understanding why. Maybe it's about just trusting that one day you'll look back and say, thank goodness that didn't work out. Because rejection sometimes is just protection wearing a really uncomfortable disguise. Thanks for listening to Jules FM. I hope something in this episode resonated and possibly is just that little nudge to maybe take a step towards being brave, choosing the path that is really aligned with you. If you liked this episode, please hit follow. Your support means everything. And if there's someone you feel could benefit from this, please share it with them. Until next time.